The Krell Armada hung in the void like a predator's teeth, 17 warships arrayed in perfect geometric formation around the mining colony of Theta 7. Commander Zeichstel's sensory appendages rippled with satisfaction as he observed the human settlement through the viewscreen. 3,000 souls trapped on a barren moon, their supply lines severed. It would be over in hours. "Commander," his sensor operator chirped, "we're detecting an anomaly." Zeichstel's 3 eyes swiveled toward the junior officer. "Specify." "Single contact emerging from jump point 77 Alpha, small vessel. The signature is—" The operator's chromatophores flushed orange with confusion. "It's human, sir." A ripple of what humans might call laughter passed through Zeichstel's throat sacs. "One ship. They send one ship against 17. He gestured with a primary limb. "Ignore it. Maintain blockade formation. Whatever foolish rescue attempt this is will collapse when they see the odds." But Maya Chen wasn't attempting a rescue. Aboard the Valkyrie, she ran her fingers across the navigation console, her dark eyes reflecting the cold light of distant stars. The ship was small, barely larger than an atmospheric shuttle, its hull pitted from a decade of asteroid mining work. It had no weapons, no shields worth mentioning. What it did have was an experimental jump drive that her late husband William had died testing. "All right, Will," she whispered to the silence, "let's see if your crazy theory was right." Her hands moved across the controls with practiced precision. The Krell formation was tight, textbook standard, which meant predictable. She'd studied their tactics for 6 months, ever since Theta 7 had sent its desperate plea for help and the Earth Alliance had deemed the colony strategically non-essential. William would have called that bureaucratic cowardice. Maya called it murder. The Valkyrie's sensors painted the Armada in harsh detail. 17 destroyers, each carrying enough firepower to glass a continent. She was a gnat flying into a bonfire, and the Krell knew it. "Unidentified human vessel." The translated Krell transmission crackled through her speakers. "You are ordered to withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Maya didn't respond. Instead, she engaged William's drive. The universe screamed. That's what it felt like to her, at least, as spacetime folded in ways that violated every assumption the Krell, and most humans, had about jump physics. Standard jump drives opened a wormhole, creating a tunnel through higher dimensions. William's drive did something different. It collapsed the quantum probability field in a localized sphere, essentially forcing reality to recalculate the position of anything within its effect radius. To an outside observer, the Valkyrie didn't jump. It flickered, appearing simultaneously in 17 different positions around the Krell formation, each instance lasting exactly 1.3 seconds before reality reasserted itself and the ship returned to baseline space. But 1.3 seconds was enough. On the Krell flagship, Zeichstel's world dissolved into chaos. Multiple contacts, multiple contacts. His sensor operator shrieked, all 3 voice chambers engaged in panic. 17 human vessels surrounding the formation. "No, wait, they're the same vessel, impossible readings." "Weapons lock," another officer called out. "All 17 are targeting us, firing." But the Valkyrie hadn't fired. It couldn't, it had no weapons. What it did have was a probability field collapse that, for 1.3 seconds, made the Krell sensors believe they were surrounded. And in those 1.3 seconds, the 17 Krell warships, following standard defensive protocols, acquired targeting locks on what they perceived as 17 enemy vessels. They fired at each other. The Armada tore itself apart in a cascade of destruction that lit up the void like a newborn star. Plasma lances designed to cut through planetary shields slammed into sister ships. Kinetic kill vehicles moving at relativistic speeds punched through hulls that had never been designed to face weapons of their own making. The perfect geometric formation became a debris field in under a minute. Maya gripped her console as the Valkyrie shuddered from the shockwaves, her stomach churning from the aftereffects of the jump. Warning lights flashed across every panel. The experimental drive was burning out, just as William had predicted it would. One jump. One chance. He'd known it would cost him his life when he'd tested the first prototype. But he'd also known it would work. "Maya to Theta 7, she transmitted, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "The blockade is broken. Repeat, the blockade is broken. Sending you the coordinates for the safest jump route out of the system. You've got maybe 12 hours before Krell reinforcements arrive." "Valkyrie, this is Theta 7 actual," a shocked voice responded. "What? How did you were reading total destruction of the Armada? What the hell did you do?" Maya allowed herself a small, bitter smile. "I made them see ghosts. Now get your people out of here. That's an order." "We can't just leave you." "You can and you will. My drive is slag. I've got maybe enough power for life support for a week if I'm lucky." She took a shaky breath. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them one modified mining ship just took out a Krell Armada. Tell them we don't need a massive fleet. We need to be smarter." She paused, looking at the photo maglocked to her console. William's face smiled back at her, forever frozen at 32, his eyes bright with the manic enthusiasm he always got when explaining his theories about quantum mechanics and warfare. "And tell them William Chen was right. The Krell think like predators, overwhelming force, direct confrontation, but we're humans. We're the species that survived on Earth by being too stubborn, too clever, and too damn spiteful to know when we're beaten." She cut the transmission and settled back in her chair, watching through the viewport as the colony's transport ships began their escape sequence. The debris field around her glowed with the heat of destruction, chunks of Krell warships tumbling through the void. One ship, one human, one impossible jump. The Krell would study this battle for decades, trying to understand what had happened. Their analysts would eventually piece together the truth, that they'd been tricked, that their own protocols had been turned against them, that a single unarmed vessel had defeated them with nothing but a clever exploit of their expectations. And that truth would spread through their empire like a virus, carried by the surviving sensor logs that even now were being transmitted back to Krell High Command. 17 warships, destroyed by their own weapons. The humans hadn't needed superior firepower or advanced shields or massive fleets. They just needed to make the Krell see what wasn't there. Maya closed her eyes, exhaustion finally overtaking adrenaline. Somewhere in the distance, she thought she could hear William's laugh, that slightly manic sound he made when one of his wild theories actually worked. "We showed them, didn't we?" she whispered to the darkness. "We showed them what humans do when you back us into a corner." The Valkyrie drifted silent in the void, its power reserves draining, its hull cold and dark. But from its position, Maya could see Theta 7's transports, one by one jumping to safety. 3,000 lives saved by one ghost. The Krell would come to fear that ghost. They would tell stories of the human ship that was everywhere and nowhere, the vessel that turned their own strength against them. They would add new protocols, new safeguards, new layers of complexity to their tactics. And humanity would study those changes, learn from them, and find new ghosts to haunt the Empire's nightmares. Because that's what humans did. That's what they'd always done. They survived.